talk about tonight, don't we?
We do. There is a known nationwide issue on Instagram. We are live streaming there also. But if you find you're having issues on and off that platform, you can join us over on Facebook, YouTube, on X. And we do have a lot to talk about tonight, don't we?
Somber days.
Yeah. Welcome to Liberty Without Compromise. We are the only live, local, politically conservative and liberty-minded program in Kootenai County, where we expose the political power players, politicians, and social influencers. And from week to week, that can look very different based on current events. We're your hosts, Dan and Donna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments. We do want you to submit those questions into the comment section tonight. Not taking phone calls, but we will be engaging in the comment section with your questions. Doesn't matter which platform you're watching on, that's going to work. Be sure, if you're watching live with us tonight, that you click the share button on whichever platform you're watching. Share that to your page or profile. And if you're listening back on our podcast, be sure to catch us live every single Wednesday night. And then we've got, let's see, tonight on Liberty Without Compromise, a tragic ambush on Coeur firefighters made national headlines, but the real question began after Sheriff Bob Norris's press conference with vague statements like "these facts may change," and the Idaho State Police is handling the officer-involved shooting. Confusion has only deepened. What really happened on Canfield Mountain June 29th, we're going to break that down tonight. And a reminder, opinions expressed are ours only and not necessarily that of any of our advertisers, sponsors, and affiliates. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Dan Wilson.
Greetings, friends. It is with heavy hearts that we start this broadcast tonight. We're going to talk about the tragedy that took place here just a few short days ago, right here in God's country, Kootenai County. But you know, we have some other things that we are thankful for before we get to the somber news, and that is we're celebrating the 249th anniversary of this great nation in just a short couple days, and how fitting the Liberty Without Compromise broadcast is taken from the liberty of what the founders gave us: life, liberty, and property. And so if you are just joining us, if you found us recently, welcome. My name is Dan Wilson, my wife Donna. We started this broadcast really when I was running for sheriff against Sheriff Bob Norris last year in 2024. I was not successful, but the message that I was spreading along with Donna did not change. In fact, we knew that we had to continue the mission, not only to hold elected officials and others accountable right here in Kootenai County, but also to be a balance for those that are far extreme on the right, far extreme on the left. You know, it's not good to be extreme on either end, but somebody that the people on both sides can trust. Somebody to speak reason and to remind us again of those truths that were in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution Bill of Rights. That's what we aim to do here as we promote all things liberty without compromise. So thank you so much for joining. We are going to be talking tonight about some sensitive subjects, and we understand that this is very fresh. We are not going to be capitalizing on this tragedy. I want to be very, very clear. We will be discussing it because I know that many of you have questions that you have been inundating me with now for days. And we're going to use this opportunity to discuss some of those things. But at the same time, we are not going to be exploiting this. So if you have questions tonight, let's be respectful, please, for those right here in our community. Also, we're going to revisit. We've been gone. We'll talk about this in a second. We've been gone for 2 weeks, and right before our last broadcast, or I should say right after our last broadcast, we were talking about the No Kings March, and my little encouragement to the local militia that decided that they were going to insert themselves. We're going to talk about the aftermath of that event, what did and what did not take place. But we also have something else exciting tonight that has been long coming for several months.
Oh, that's our giveaway of the Liberty Without Compromise snapback trucker hat premium embroidered, and the winner has been chosen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do I just announce it? Is all there is to it? There's no special music, no pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't get a drum roll going.
Well,
Nothing.
I mean, it is what it is.
Well, this has been a long time in coming. We thank you for all those of you who entered. We may even, after this point, because it's been widely requested, we may eventually make this hat available in our online store. And the winner tonight is what? What do we got going? I got to leave the volume up.
I'm done now.
No, try it again. You got to
Absolutely, 100%.
familiar voice. We're going to be talking a little bit about that voice later tonight. But our winner of the Liberty Without Compromise snapback trucker hat, again, long awaited, is Cordell Slinkard of Coeur d'Alene. So Cordell, to let you know, we will be notifying you via the email address that you submitted in that form when you entered to win. We'll be sending you that notification and get you, again, this is my raggedy one that I've been wearing around. You will be getting a brand new one of your own. Congratulations to Cordell Slinkard, the winner of the hat.
This, just to be clear, is not currently on our apparel page.
It's not.
Okay. And what is that? Where do we find apparel? Liberty Without Compromise apparel?
libertywithoutcompromise.com, and you click on the apparel tab.
And we have the two lines. We have the traditional Liberty Without Compromise.
Liberty Without Compromise. It's an updated from when the campaign was running. It's an updated layout. And then we also have the cowboy collection, which I've started to see out and around town. So that's a good reminder to head over to libertywithoutcompromise.com and get your apparel, whether it's, you need tank tops this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's everything for guys, girls, different sizes, colors, styles, even name brand labels on those. You can do hoodies for the cool summer nights, and then t-shirts, tank tops, that sort of thing for summertime.
So we've been gone for 2 weeks. First week was right here with family. My daughter and son-in-law came to visit us from Virginia. They recently just retired from the Navy. And I think that it was great to see my daughter. I haven't seen her in many years. But really what I really enjoyed was seeing my 3-year-old grandson. So Brian, if you're still awake, and you should be in bed, Pop says hello, and I'm looking forward to our next bear hunt.
Now, why didn't I have a photo pulled up?
Well, allure. I got to tell you, with this new,
it's too much.
The light is so bright, I can barely see my screen and my written notes.
Look, I can always sneak off camera and go lower that down a little bit. I got something. I was sitting outside the cigar lounge a couple of days. Stogies and stories. I was waiting for you. You were coming from work, and we were gonna enjoy a smoke there toward the end of the day before dinner. And I got there a few minutes before you. And okay, this is a little bit of a sensitive subject. Right across. This is not Stogies and Stories' fault, but right across from the cigar bar there, cigar lounge.
It's in Truck Town, so it's a trucker area,
like long haul Truckville.
Yeah.
Right there in, is it Post Falls?
Yeah.
Officially.
Yep.
There is a bikini coffee.
Ooh.
Bikini coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think many of us by now, I'm going to share a screen. There's this guy.
Uh-oh.
There's this guy.
Uh-oh.
And he made the Coeur d'Alene Press here the other day. Let's see if this works. Post Falls driver pleads not guilty to battery for spraying protesters. And I think this is something Dan's going to talk about a little bit. It ties in a little bit to something a little later in the program today. City prosecutors charge Jim Valentine with battery for allegedly spraying water at protesters during an April demonstration. Mm-hmm. Not getting further into the article, but this car, I think every single one of us, we've seen it around town.
I love seeing this car. It's a cool car.
Yeah, and there's like Virgin Mary's
Did you actually show the picture yet?
I don't, you know
it's
what?
Not showing up?
Yeah, I thought I did.
Here.
There's
I'm adding it right there. How about that?
I think it's now a 2-step thing. You can share it and then you have to add it, and it didn't used to be that way. So thank you for having my back.
So this car.
Okay, so this car, we've all seen it, really familiar. Guys driving it. I didn't know this until I made the association with when this came out in the Coeur d'Alene Press. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you know the guy, Jim Valentine. So I'm sitting there, back to Stogies and Stories. I'm waiting in the parking lot for you. And this car comes blazing down, whatever, I don't know what it's on. I don't know the name of the road.
Pleasant View.
Oh, Pleasant View, and then
off of,
whatever, right, just off of Pleasant View. So he comes blazing right across, right past the Bikini Barista, and gives a big honk of the horn, which is he's got a whole get up and go with the horn situation in that car, and waves to the Bikini Baristas. So he's
a nice guy.
I was like, Jim, come on, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was my little, yeah. So does that stop sharing when I say stop sharing? I think you have to remove it.
You have to remove it.
All right. Well, I tried. You're becoming a better producer than.
Well, I learned from the best.
Anyway, that's my Jim Valentine story. Just a little sideline. He didn't know I saw him.
So Tina has this to say: Dan, I'm really just torn. I supported you so strongly at the beginning and adored you, but you are losing me. I feel like you just go after Norris and what he does and what his mistakes are. I would rather know what you will do and how you will execute. I don't want to hear about how bad somebody else is. We want to replace him anyway, so I don't need to dissect his actions. I don't like him, what he has done, or how he performs. Don't need to dissect it and waste time. I don't know if that's the end of it or not, but it looks like we get the gist.
Just a limited amount of characters.
Right. Yeah. Tina, I completely understand why you feel that way. And yes, I hit Bob plenty and often on this broadcast. But Tina, you're not the only person that is supporting or has supported Dan Wilson. There are many new people that come onto this page all the time that are learning about this guy for the first time. I gained many new followers this week, right after Sunday, when people started going online and discovering me for the first time. So while I understand that it can be frustrating for you, we're also showing you a change of a contrast. The people need to be continually reminded, because whether you like it or not, the people in this county, and it's human nature, have very short attention spans. And how many of those things that I spoke about for over a year, the charges that I made against Bob Norris and his behavior and his inefficiencies, well, I think that they are playing out in real time. And so while I understand that may upset you, you got to understand this show isn't just for you. This show is for many people, and we're going to continue grinding in that truth over and over and over. So if that bothers you, then. Do you think most people truly are bothered by hearing the negativity in a public leader or official? If they're failing, do you think people really truly are fundamentally bothered by that? Or is there something in the conservative community where we've been programmed to think that it's bad to talk about the negative things in another candidate? And I know it gets to feel tiring in a sense, but we should be battle ready and hardened to a point to understand that it's going to be impossible for you to present what needs to happen that's different if you cannot present not only what the problem was when you first ran against Sheriff Bob Norris, but how it's now playing out in real time and the demonstration of what he's doing. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me that. Well, I mean, it's constantly evolving. So yes. It's not static, it's dynamic. And unfortunately, a lot of that dynamic nature, it elicits the need to revisit and to point things out. And by the way, you have Bob Norris, largely in part because of the KCRCC and the cabal that is there right now. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but I do understand, Tina. And look, I also get the people that say, well, I was a Dan Wilson supporter, but I'm no longer there. Okay, cool. At the end of the day, I'm not changing for anybody. I will continue to speak the truth, regardless of whatever it costs me. And if you can't handle that or other people can't, you can continue to watch the press conferences that Bob Norris puts out. and see how competent he is. We'll talk about that a little more in, I would say, probably a few minutes down the road.
Okay. One more thing I wanted to tag on to that is people, they're going to see you through a negative light when their internal, the dialogue is not even internal, it's external. They're externalizing it. But when the lens they're looking through is Dan Wilson will just do anything to attack Bob Norris. Like you will create a scenario and you will take anything and everything he does and make it negative just to slam the guy because you can't stand him. I don't want you to say anything about that right now, but that unfortunately is part of what you're dealing with. If somebody was able to set that aside, I think they could more readily see why it is necessary and needed to talk about the shortcomings, talk about what's ever evolving, like you said, in these current events, and how he's demonstrating his ability or lack thereof in real time. Yeah. So yeah, well, like you said, we'll come back to that. We had a lot of you join since the top of the hour. So as you're watching live with us here tonight, a couple of reminders. We do want you to join in on the conversation. We're not taking phone calls tonight, but we are reading your questions and comments in real time, and we want to make those a part of the discussion. So on whichever platform you're joining us, make sure to enter those into the comment section and we will get them up into the program. And then also, again, you're watching live, so share this live stream to your page or profile.
One of the issues for those of you who have watched for any length of time, or if you're brand new, it is the issue of human trafficking. There is very few things more heinous that I can think of than the trafficking of human lives. And while I have always stated that human trafficking most certainly is taking place right here in Kootenai County, it has been denied on the record, on numerous video clips and in public, by the current sheriff, who says that it's not an issue here in Kootenai County. It's not taking place. In fact, if you go to my X page pinned at the top, when he was being interviewed just a few short months ago, after the start of his second term, he says, does human trafficking take place here in Kootenai County? No. And then he tries to come up with some mumbo jumbo about kids playing on the internet with their phone. And, that could groom kids eventually. But I want you guys to know something. Despite what Bob Norris says, you can talk to Nate Lewis of The Innocent. He knows what's going on here. In fact, he combats it all the time. And he works with law enforcement to give resources to law enforcement agencies across this country in order to combat the evilness of human trafficking. So I find it curious that we'll go up to slide 1, page 1 here. This just came in, and if I can adjust my eyes because these lights are so bright.
Okay, I'm going to go fix that for you.
We have right now, this is a current jail inmate list for Andrei Samolovov. It is dated just a few days ago, on the 27th. He was booked into Kootenai County Jail, arrested by the Idaho State Patrol for human sex trafficking of a child. And he's on, looks like $500,000 bond. Regardless of what Bob Norris says, and we have no idea why he continues to say that it is not taking place, I want to remind you all, your chief law enforcement officer of the county, the one that's supposed to stand between you and the evilness that surrounds our communities, if I can be as blunt as that, says it's not taking place. And yet we have examples, and we're going to continue to roll these out to call Bob Norris the liar that he is, and to hold all accountable to the nature of what is going on right here in Kootenai County, Spokane County, Shoshone, all the counties around us. So, that's a somber reminder. Now, this part is going to be tough. We're going to talk about the tragedy that has taken place right here in Kootenai County. For those of you who don't know the details yet, Sunday, the 29th, just a few short days ago. Kootenai County Fire, along with Coeur Fire, were investigating, 2 battalion chiefs investigating a brush fire up on a local mountain. And in the course of their investigating this fire, they were ambushed and they were shot and killed. And another fireman was also gravely wounded. There was a large manhunt and containment. And let's go to our slides. We're going to show some photos here. So we have the names of those that were murdered. I think that's fitting. We need to be reminded that these guys were killed in the line of duty. They were murdered not by an active shooter, but an active murderer. Names of these men: John Morrison, battalion commander, battalion chief from Coeur Fire Department; Frank Harwood, battalion chief for Kootenai County Fire and Rescue; and firefighter that was gravely wounded, David Tisdale of the Coeur Fire Department. I think we're going to give them a minute of silence. These are tough things to have to talk about, and they're tough when it happens in general anywhere around the country. First responders that are killed in the line of duty. It's even more difficult when it's close to home. I did not know any of these brave men, but what I do know is we all at one time or another have shared being first responders, and that is a bond that you share with men and women alike, whether they did the job and have retired or are current. It's community. According to the spokesman review, law enforcement believe that the suspect, I don't even want to say his name, he doesn't deserve to have his name mentioned. He started a 26-acre fire with a flint starter on Canfield Mountain to lure firefighters in an ambush-style attack. Coeur Fire Department and Kootenai County Fire and Rescue crews arrived at 1:21 p.m. to the report of a blaze, and they found this murderer. The firefighters, now identified as Harwood and Morrison, had a discussion with him, asking the murderer to move his truck. At 2 p.m., fire crews reported they were being shot. It's believed responders were being targeted from a tree in which this sick individual had perched. Norris said because law enforcement was also engaging in gunfire in the same direction, these firefighters didn't have a chance, Norris told reporters Sunday night. Investigators eventually discovered a phone signal on the mountain that had been there since around 3:16 p.m. When they traced the phone, they found Rowley dead with a shotgun underneath him. Law enforcement had to act quickly to remove his body because the wildfire was encroaching at high speeds. Norris has said it took about an hour and a half to recover him from the mountain. The suspect's truck was still in the middle of an active crime scene and partially torched from the wildfires. Investigators haven't recorded an inventory of the truck that's still lying in an embankment after deputies pushed it over a cliff, so the suspect couldn't circle back and around during the shootout and drive away, Norris said. Deputies also flattened the tires of multiple fire trucks on the scene so the suspect could not hijack them. The murderer has been in the area for the better part of 2024. He was also known to police, but not for anything criminal. The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office had 3 interactions with this guy. The Coeur Police Department reported 2. Each interaction was minimal. like for trespassing or welfare check, and the suspect was cooperative. Yeah. I know many of you have a lot of questions, and I've received many requests for my thoughts. I know many of you are concerned that the story you're being told is not the truth, and I get it. We're going to talk about why I think many of you believe that. I've been asked, what would you have done? Mm-hmm. And I don't think at this point that it would be fair for me to come in and do that. But what I do have is questions. Tina, this is one of those times where I think it would be great to listen to the question I'm asking, because these questions matter. I spent 12 years as a reserve officer. I was not high speed. It's not like I was the SWAT operator and the detective. I was just a patrolman. But I've been around enough scenes to understand how some of this works. So I'll give some perspective if you guys have questions, and I might be able to give you my opinion. Understand, I don't have any special insight into this. I talked with deputies that were on scene that are friends of mine. I've talked to outside agencies that sent officers over that are friends of mine. Contacts inside Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. That doesn't mean that I have any kind of a special track. So I'm going to start out with some questions that I have. Maybe you have these questions as well. I don't know. But there are things that I think that we should be observing when it comes to the chief law enforcement officer of the county. I'm going to start by saying that your sheriff is not a rank. Sheriff is an elected position. You, the people, elect that person in order to have somebody that can stand up and be steady and strong, a great leader, reassuring to the people, somebody that can articulate facts and make people understand that they're either safe or in danger and what they're doing to mitigate any danger. So that being said, I'm going to move into my observations from Sunday night. And you can jump in anytime, as we often do. If we get a question, we'll jump in. I still can't see.
Really?
Lights, but there was 2 press conferences that took place on Sunday. One was very early on. I want to say around 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And Bob Norris handled the very first one by himself. We're going to kind of talk about that one a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the one that happened later Sunday night, and then the bigger press conference that was held the very next day on Monday. So a couple things. I have questions. Why was the sheriff not on the line at the command post with his people? This was clearly Kootenai County Sheriff's jurisdiction. This was their event. Why was the sheriff not up there on that mountain with his people? Why was he fuddy-duddying with reporters? It's a question I have. I've never seen a sheriff that I've worked around that has ever not been at the scene. So that's one question. The second question is, and we may have this video, during the very first press conference, while it was still happening, it was a live scene. We're getting all sorts of conflicting reports as to what's taking place, what kind of, how many shooters. Bob Norris, sheriff, makes a careless statement. Do you have that video by chance?
I do.
Let's go ahead and play that video.
Sheriff Norris, how are you feeling about this overall from when you first got the call to just now from what you've learned?
You know what, it's going to be a tough next couple hours. Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping that somebody has a clear shot and is able to neutralize, because they are not at this point in time showing any evidence of wanting to surrender. So as soon as somebody has a clear shot, I encourage them to take that shot and neutralize the threat.
Okay. Now, being a former law enforcement, I clearly understood what he was saying. I knew that he was referring to whatever law enforcement agency that was there, being able to neutralize the threat, stop the threat, if you will. The unfortunate part is that there are people listening to this from around the entire country. And I was immediately getting text messages from Texas and from Virginia and from down in California. Did the sheriff really just say for anybody to neutralize this guy? You have to also understand that on this active mountain, it's a mountain where there are many folks that are hiking on a Sunday. There are residents up there. And we have militias. We're going to talk about this in a short while. Matt Edwards of the Idaho Signal?
Mm-hmm. That's it, yeah.
He even tweeted out, I should have grabbed that. Basically, the sheriff is calling for gun delay number 2 type of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. And if you as a sheriff cannot articulate, hey, look, if the suspect does not surrender and we are forced to stop him, we will use any and all methods that we need to stop that threat, to stop the killing, however many people are involved. But it's important as a sheriff, you are the lead spokesperson that should be articulate enough in order to go to the common denominator. And we know that we live in a world where you have to play to the common denominator. I say the common denominator. Let me restate the lowest denominator.
Yeah. And people in Kootenai County need to understand. I know that we are all the center of our own world. We are personally, we are each the main character in our own story. And then in Kootenai County, and then narrow that down to even the Republican Party, we are the main characters in our story. And so the knee-jerk reaction from those in Kootenai County that support Sheriff Norris, the response was, you'd have to be an idiot to not understand what he's saying. And I'm not going to create an argument on that one because I get it. I get why you're saying that. I understand that. But there also is a world outside of Facebook. I think a lot of people in Kootenai County, especially the conservatives, and if you're in like a similar age bracket as I am, you tend to think that the social media communication that happens is Facebook alone and that you're winning all of the arguments and everybody thinks the way that you do if you can come into that comment section on Facebook and sway them. We posed a question on the Idaho Sheriff Facebook page about that comment that was made by Sheriff Norris, because what we were seeing was that it went nationwide. It did. So there were interviews happening on Fox News with these sound bites, and you could say taken out of context or not, that is what was happening, because in the moment that he made that statement, that was his statement from beginning to end, it wasn't clear. And so we were simply posing the question, was that an irresponsible comment to make? Because it wasn't clear.
Yeah. And again, why wasn't he up on the mountain with his men? I would think that a sheriff that truly cared about all of his people and every other agency, federal, state, local, that was there to assist their scene. I would think that sheriff would be on location at the command post, armored up, and would not leave until the threat was stopped. Mm-hmm. And every last Kootenai County deputy, Coeur PD, Post Falls PD, Rathdrum PD, Spirit Lake, Spokane County, Spokane City, every last agent, an officer, and deputy was accounted safe for. That's why you have a public information officer.
Well, it is. But I even with that, I'm going to tell you what the counter argument is. But again, a lot more of you have joined us since the beginning of the program. So a reminder, we want your questions and your comments flowing through that comment section. We're not taking phone calls tonight, but we are engaging with your questions in the comment section on whichever platform you're watching. So the question that you have about why was Sheriff Bob Norris not with his men until that threat was neutralized, and a public information officer could have served that purpose of coming in to be the figurehead at the press conferences. And the excuse, the supporters of Sheriff Bob Norris, it's, you've always got the two camps. Like there's the Dan Wilson who will take anything Bob Norris does and and turn it into a vice. And then there's those who are supporters of Bob Norris that it doesn't matter what the guy does, they're going to come up with the line of reasoning to support it. So the counter argument was, look, you guys would complain about anything he did. If he wasn't there, then you'd be complaining that why isn't he there at the press conferences speaking and letting the people know what's going on? But because you weren't alone in questioning that. You were not the only one saying, what is he even doing here?
I was on some very large similar incidents when I was a reserve. We had 2 deputies shot up in Spokane County. Very similar. I mean, not identical, but hundreds of law enforcement officers from federal, state, you name it, were on scene. And I've never observed a sheriff that was not, or a chief that wasn't with his men. Mm-hmm. So going on to that night, once the threat had stopped and they were sort of getting a timeline on things, I'm curious as to why there was limited participation. You had Kootenai Fire and Coeur d'Alene Fire, and you had an ISP lieutenant who never spoke. There wasn't really a timeline. There was no empathy. I mean, there was no real, I guess, observation of the lives lost, the deputies and all law enforcement that sacrificed and worked so hard to contain this chaotic scene. There's nobody from, well, we'll get into that, but there did not seem to be really any kind of bring the community together. This is a horrible thing that just took place to us. It's like, this kind of happened, and we're doing this. This happened here. This happened there, and one of the interesting things that he said, again, talking about careless, is ISP is handling the officer-involved shooting. Well, for the people that don't understand what that means, one would maybe come to the conclusion that an officer shot.
There was an officer
a suspect, right?
I want to interrupt because we've got Boyd or a Wilson or a J. Boyd, Wilson J. Boyd, McSwain. We don't know which part of that's your name there, guy. But he said it's sad. He needs the Cliff Notes because he missed the beginning of the program. Yeah. Clear to me. It's sad that we lost lives in our community and you are using it to bash someone else. What do you have to say to that?
Well, you'll have to watch the replay because you're not even going there. Yet.
Okay. Not going to break stride.
Couple more questions. Why was Special Deputy and County Commissioner, yes, folks, Bruce Matari, Board of the County Commissioners, also is a badged up Special Deputy of Bob Norris. Why was he there putting in his plug to say how great the sheriff had done his job? And then, by the way, folks, don't forget to come and recreate at Kootenai County because we're really good people.
The thing that you all need to remember, I'm talking to you, the thing that you need to remember is that Dan and Donna Wilson really, truly are not always sitting down to observe whatever Sheriff Bob Norris is and pick it apart and critique it and looking for whatever next thing. I mean, we do have such a thing as very full and productive lives where we both have full-time careers that are extraordinarily fulfilling and family that we love and hobbies, all of those things. And so we are very much like you, and we're sitting down and this event is underway and we are watching and observing and watching it unfold right along with you and formulating those questions and opinions and shrugging shoulders and confused at the same things that you are. Yeah. It's not merely for a critique of Bob Norris. So all of that was my whole lead in to say that was one of those moments for me where I'm live watching this, that initial, I think it was the initial, no, it was the second press conference. And again, I'm just me. Like there's no other agenda. And when Bob Norris, without hearing from any of the other first responders or professionals in the situation or from Kootenai Health, anything that the community's dying to know, and he brings he brings Bruce Matari up there to promote. Don't be afraid to come to Coeur d'Alene this summer. What do we?
Let me ask you, folks. You guys have seen events all over the country that are similar to this. Have you ever seen a sheriff that gets up there just by his lonesome? that doesn't have a wall of other stakeholders, if you will, experts in their discipline. We'll go into the next day, for example. The next day, why were there two separate press conferences? Why was there a press conference that Bob Norris held and one that Coeur held, where the Coeur mayor spoke? Why wasn't everybody together? Well, my sources inside local government would indicate that there is animosity or disgust of Bob Norris's behavior towards a lot of the people there. It's not natural. Now, I want to know in my questions, and we're going to start answering some of your questions here that you're posting. They're great questions. Why was there no representative at Bob Norris's, his press conference from Monday? A national event again. No Kootenai Fire and Rescue, no Coeur d'Alene Fire, no ISP, no FBI. The coroner wasn't there. There wasn't any surgeon or medical expert from Kootenai Health to let us know the status of the gravely wounded firefighter. These are all extremely odd. And if you watch Quincy Franklin's, the BC preacher, listen to his live stream of Sunday night's presser. And when he's done, he's talking with the other legacy reporters in the room for the major stations. And I think you'll find out, as we did, they weren't too impressed with Bob Norris. There's something wrong here, folks. And these are questions that we need to be asking.
No, and you think it's easy to just, again, have this very narrow Kootenai County Republican Party perspective that Bob Norris is the end all be all. But you just even take cues from the fact of why is he not, what are those, the physical, like nonverbal cues that he's giving with other professionals in that situation with not letting them speak or not. And this is a guy that's touted all of this experience and his performance. Well, his performance is going to reflect all of the 30 plus years of experience.
So why does this matter? At the end of the day, and we're going to start taking these questions and talking about them. Why does it matter? It matters, folks, because in your most crucial times, these types of events qualify as that. The people need to have a leader. They need to have a leader or leaders, but the sheriff at a bare minimum, who walks the people through full transparency, which means you even say, I can't talk about that right now because we can't speculate. We can't make any assumptions at this point. But if you don't have everything written down and rehearsed by your team, and you go out there and you fumble through it, if you can't clearly communicate, bad communication always leads to speculation. And we've seen a lot of it. I've had the TikTok videos. I've had the Instagram videos. I've had all sorts of screenshots sent to me, and people are saying there's more here than what really they're telling us. And again, I don't have any special insight other than talking to a couple of the folks that I mentioned earlier. But when you have a sheriff who cannot articulate and bring the subject matter experts, the disciplines, to answer the questions and to keep everything straight the way it should be, in this world that we live in, it doesn't take long before people start saying, hey, this is what he said. This is what we know to be true. And a lot of that simply comes because you're uneducated and you start saying things that, and I'm not saying the people are, but as a sheriff, you start making statements either that you know to not be fully vetted out or not true or still under investigation or whatever else. You are welcoming distrust by the people that you serve. So let's go to some of these.
One of those, while you're looking up for a legitimate question on there, one of those was statements that I think was, I don't know how it's classified, whether it's careless or of what consequence it was, but he said that when he was revealing who the shooter was, the murderer was, that his social media had been taken down. It's been wiped, but didn't know by who.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that right there, that, this takes less than 2 seconds for that phrase to come out of your mouth. But then people are saying that right there, just that little piece of intel doesn't make any sense.
So folks understand on these kind of incidents, they are dynamic, and you have people that are in adrenaline-induced states. You have people that are experiencing trauma, even first responders, they're humans. They experience these things. Radio chatter comes across. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. But after a while, you start getting a lot of parallel different storylines going on. When I was dispatched as a police officer, dispatch would advise us of something and we get on scene and it would be completely different from what we were being told over the air or on our MDCs. But so, yeah, I thought an officer was shot. Well, according to the official narrative right now, and I believe this to be true, no officer was shot. A firefighter was gravely wounded, and Tisdale is from my understanding, is recovering, but still critical. So there was the other question. People were saying, let's see if I can find one here. Let's talk about the gunfire, multiple shooters. Those of you who have spent any time on the range, law enforcement, or you shoot a lot, or military, after a while you become kind of familiar with the sounds of the different platforms. Shotgun sounds different from a rifle. A bolt action sounds different from an AR, and a handgun sounds different from, all of those. In fact, you and I were outside on Saturday and there was a backfire. We had this conversation before this event.
We did.
And you said, well, how come you don't startle like everybody else?
I said, if you don't react, I don't react. Yeah. That's what I said. And because so the difference.
As the conversation went on, you just learned. So, I mean, we don't know exactly who is reporting that they were taking rifle fire. It's possible through the course of the investigation that they may find that a rifle was used. But I kind of think that probably as they got more officers on scene, and if they were taking fire from the suspect, and maybe they were laying down some suppressive fire, even though per policy is not always necessarily allowable. In this case, maybe it was, and you do what you got to do. So we don't know who is reporting what they're hearing. Again, when people are involved in these kind of incidents, things are perceived far different than they are from those of us sitting back in an armchair with the ability to thoughtfully, without any kind of stress, think through it.
A comment from Kyle Farrell, and I'm going to tack on a question onto this, but he said Kootenai County and Spokane County deputies need to all be cross-commissioned in the event something like this happens again. The question that I'll add on to that, do you think that anything during this event was impeded within the response or the threat being neutralized? Because that is not the case.
I don't know. I mean, it's speculation. I talked with guys that were there.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they understand the entirety of everything. That was just their view at the perception. Kyle, I think that MOUs, memos of understanding, are really the way that they're operating now in Idaho. I think that Kootenai County is still part of that archaic. You gotta, cross deputize, but you look at the bigger counties down south, Ada and Canyon, and I think even Coeur d'Alene, they work off of the MOU. So I do know that a lot of Spokane County and Spokane City, as well as I think Liberty Lake and probably, we have some federal agents too, but we do know that they are currently cross-deputized in Kootenai County. Now, I will say that it sounds like that Spokane, their SWAT team was very beneficial. My understanding is that they were able to get some air assets up, probably Air One or one of Spokane County's superior helicopters, as well as I think I saw a Homeland Security, probably Border Patrol helicopter. But my understanding is there were 2 snipers, probably one on each one of those birds. So
And I'm going to give a quick recap again. A whole bunch of you joined since the top of the hour. Tonight, we're discussing the tragic ambush on Coeur d'Alene firefighters. It made national headlines, but the real questions began after Sheriff Bob Norris's press conference with vague statements like these facts. The facts may change, and, quote, the Idaho State Police is handling the officer-involved shooting, end quote. Confusion has only deepened. And so we're talking about, there's been a lot of speculation, what really happened on Canfield Mountain on June 29th. We're breaking that down tonight, taking your questions and comments, which you can put right into the comment section, and we'll get those over to Dan.
Teresa, not so much a question as more of an observation, in my opinion. I felt we were lied to by Norris throughout this whole investigation. I feel like the citizens are being kept in the dark about the truth of this horrific crime. I understand that again, but let's wait until we get the final report. We still haven't heard from the medical examiner the cause of death. We haven't heard any of those details. At least I haven't. Maybe something's come out since this afternoon. There's a lot of details, and I understand the angst and wanting to know, but let's wait to see the final report. And there are a lot of men that I trust very, very dearly. In fact, one of them was going to be my undersheriff that was on this at this event, working it. And I listened to what he had to say, and I trust him. I trust him with my life. So he's very credible. And I have not heard anything yet that leads me to think that there is anything other than they're still hammering the details down. And it's not so much that there is an attempt to mislead. Subject to change. I mean, something could come out later on.
Well, I think we now live in a society where you got those of us who believe things our entire life since grade school in the 70s that we went to the moon. And then some of us like genuinely questioning things that we believed majority of our lives. And that unfortunately is the world we now live in. So you have bad communication coming from a figurehead that just is not articulating things well at all. And it opens that door even more for all the speculation, because people are already so uncomfortable with just believing what we're being told. Yeah. I mean, that's just unfortunately where we are. But I also know think about this, I think you are giving wise advice to take a step back and give it some more time to really find the facts, because we can all jump so fast into conspiracies. And that's why I had people asking me, I can't wait to hear what Dan thinks about this. And I kind of had to like calm the current a little bit, that you're not jumping to
we're probably going to get accused of now we're in on the conspiracy because
yeah. And on a lot of this, nobody can.
Well,
win.
you have to understand that we've heard every kind of conspiracy you can think of. I mean, some that are somewhat plausible. I could see where somebody would go there. And then some that are so far out there that I'm just like, no, take it from me. Somebody that I hope you would trust. I hope that I have earned your trust by now to say, listen to Wilson. If something changes, then I'll be the first to say, you know what? I'm glad that the truth was exposed if it is being covered up. But, it's a couple days out, and I think that a lot of what we're dealing with right now is just the inability for there to be good, solid communication. Plus, folks, look, these things, we were having this conversation. I can tell one of my boys something.
That's your
and
taking
then
the words.
they will take it to their brother.
Yes.
And then the brother tells his sister, and then brother tells his sister out of state. Yes. And then it comes back to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's not really what took place. So
that right there is a very important illustration, because we, as a whole, all of us, it's impossible to keep facts straight within a family sometime in disseminating information in the way Dan just described. So imagine an event like that happens over the weekend, and you have that many agencies, that many departments, that many people running back and forth and different forms and lines of communication, and then trying to rush things forward to press. And then you've got a lot of individuals telling stories about what they saw, and that stuff was coming back to us. Like Yeah, my grandfather's uncle has a son who was riding a motorcycle up there and saw this, and not once. I heard that story coming from a few different places, but not once from
they
that
all happen
anybody
to be
knew
friends with the person that
the friend of the
close
friend or the grandmother or the grandson of the friend, and so you're like, well, not once did that ever come from whoever the source was.
I can remember one time we were on a stabbing right downtown Spokane, and
who's we?
Well, when I was with Spokane
Philadelphia.
PD, and as we were securing, the scene, we were ordered by sergeants to start interviewing anybody and everybody we could, right? That was there because there was a big crowd, and everybody had a different story, including what the suspect was wearing and the skin color of the suspect.
Yeah.
So stuff takes time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at this one. The media released audio already from a firefighter in contact with dispatch of the initial start of being fired upon and requesting law enforcement immediately. Yeah. I don't know when you say media, I think that was alternative media. I don't believe that any of the, what I would call the mainstream legacy media was doing that.
It was, I know North Idaho News was penalizing people and rushing to block those or to remove those posts from comment sections on their media page. And then who knows where else it was popping up.
Yeah. Let's see. Nick says, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just want answers, a bit more details. Nick. Yeah, absolutely. I concur with you. You're exactly right. So we don't have, we're not at odds on that. Josh says they did report he's out of critical and stable and talking. That is an answer to prayer. Betty Santos, the autopsy could take up to 6 weeks in some cases.
On to Amy Fonstrom. This is one that people were speculating. Any thoughts about the man that jumped off of Veterans Memorial Bridge later Sunday evening? They said they weren't releasing his name at all. And I know Norris already came out with a statement that there was no correlation, but this
he said no nexus.
No, he loves the word.
Nexus,
he used the word nexus a lot. You should go back and count. But that right there, because people aren't following cohesive statements that he's making, it's making it just seem like even if it just is, even if we can chalk this off to, look, he's just not good at public speaking. I mean, maybe it really is as simple as that, but it's literally so bad that it makes you think the dude is hiding something. He's being forced to come on and say these things or change his story. And that's what's leading to all of the speculation.
As much as I abhor Bob Norris, in this instance, I am not willing to say that he is covering up one thing.
Agreed. I agree.
Subject to change again. Yeah. But I think that the lesson that we all really can learn from this is that, one, when it's your own community, you have a real vested interest. I mean, think about the heartbreak. Folks that never knew these guys, they're your home heroes. They're your people. I have a son that was in fire service. It's another son that works ER. And, you think about people that do the hard work day in and day out. And when these things happen, it is devastating. And it's tough too when you have the inability between one source of information. And the one thing I would say is there should have always been one source of information. All of the stakeholders should have gotten together and appointed their own PIOs who continually released the statements together at the same time. So there was nothing contradictory. I know that talking to one of my friends, when they had the Coeur d'Alene and that press release, or the press conference rather, yesterday, they found out information that was not shared by Norris to them. Shared, did I say it wrong? Norris did not share information with them that he was running his mouth about in his own press conference. And they were going, well, okay, what about this? And they're blindsided. They're like, well, we had no idea.
Because they should have been an official source of distribution. And okay, yeah. Now, I know that we could take a turn here because there were some follow-up things from our last live stream, which, as it happens, has been a couple of weeks ago now, but I still think important to cover because it ties in with local militia.
Yes.
And that came into question even in this event. There was a ton of chatter on social media where people were saying, where are they? Who needs me? I got my stuff. I'm ready to go. And there were people ready to fight the fight if they needed to do that. And some of that stems from local militia. So that's something we talked about a couple weeks ago. I do want to let you know that you can continue the chatter on this previous topic with the events of last weekend. You can continue that in the comments section. You'll see those rolling up on the screen. But I think we're going to move forward here to follow up.
Well, I do have
on,
one final thing that I really do want to say, and that is this. To all first responders, those that worked not only that scene, but continue to work the aftermath, whether you are law enforcement, deputies, Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, Post Falls PD, Coeur d'Alene PD, Spirit Lake PD, Rathdrum PD, Spokane County, federal law enforcement, ISP, Homeland Security, Fire, Coeur d'Alene Fire, Kootenai Fire, Forest Service. There's so many that I don't even know who all you are. The staff of Kootenai Health, that the medical center that we're providing the emergency procedures. I want every one of you to know how proud I am of you and how much I appreciate, along with your community, appreciate the work that you guys did, the hard work and the work that you will continue to do despite the criticisms, despite poor work environments, those things that you deal with day in and day out. You guys know what your mission is. You will not be deterred. You may be heartbroken now, but I know that you will continue to work to serve your communities and to stay courageous. So my hat's off to all of you.
And as we continue forward.
Yeah, we had quite a show 3 weeks ago. I guess it was 3 weeks ago. We had the No Kings protest that was taking place all the way across the country. And, Quincy Franklin, who is a BC preacher, live streamer, he was on location during this streaming event. He's a veteran of the Portland riots and
some people say Antifa.
Black Lives Matter, Black Bloc. So some of these extremely violent factions of protests of the far left. And, one of the things that as I was getting close to that event, and I was just saying, be prepared, but there was no statements from local law enforcement, nothing from Bob Norris. He released something about a half hour, or actually 5 minutes after our show ended. Bob Norris at 9 o'clock or 9:30 at night releases a statement after we took the boost to him saying, hey, people are concerned that these No Kings protest is going to completely.
So I got to add this for anybody that wonders why we still criticize Bob Norris. It's because he's listening to the program and then he knows what he needs to go do to help you.
But my belief at the time was, hey, I don't suspect that this is going to be violent, at least not in Kootenai County. Law enforcement, Chief White, nobody has said, hey, we're on high alert and be careful. People were worried, obviously. And so we brought to light a call by a local militia. And this was being spread around. It was sent to me by somebody who received it. I don't know, we got it on page 6 of our slide. Basically, it was a rally call written on legal paper and then,
with whiteout.
Yeah, whiteout pictures. And, this is a level, whatever.
Level 4 alert.
Yeah.
Level 4.
Commanding officer, Badger and Leprechaun. And then we got the next day, which was the official, it's go time. We exposed this, that there was a call for the militia guys to rally at 0930 at Athol Super 1. They're supposed to wear their battle dress, their uniforms, sidearms, bring your web gear and rifle, bring food and water and extra medical, bring handcuffs if you have them, bring your GPS and your radios, GMRS probably, I'm thinking is what that says. We will deploy to Coeur d'Alene for riot control backup. More to follow at the rally point in Athol. This is not a drill.
No, it's a level
officer,
4.
Commanding Officer Badger, First Sergeant Leprechaun. Highway 95 and Appleway will be our meeting with the groups and
I can't
whatever.
With the leprechaun.
I brought it up, and we're going to play the first video because we're going to show you what I said. It'll play for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. I'll probably get tired of it and turn it off. You'll get the gist. But we're going to revisit what was said, because one thing I'm going to tell you, a lot of you disingenuous knuckleheads out there, you get so offended. You trip on your pee-pee because you're so upset that you start saying stupid things and making up things that I didn't say. And then you start having these arguments about things that didn't take place. You do get a little bit upset, though, when statements are made. And the only thing I can think of is that you take a general statement and you personalize it, probably because there's more truth, like being out of shape.
Yeah.
You know, and then I go, well, we got militia guys that are they're out of shape because they were injured. They were tier 1 operators, but they were injured. And
well, it's like anyone, you get offended and then you want to defend yourself or your argument. So you think of the absolute most extreme example. That's the 1% and not the 99%. I want to tell Ed, hang in there on that comment, because I'm going to bring that back as we move through this segment. But I think you want to play that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play.
The clip.
We're going to play what was said a couple weeks ago. So you, if you haven't listened to it, you can hear it for yourself, or you can go back and listen to episode 25 back June, I think 11th.
Am I putting this up
yeah,
here?
go ahead and put it up. Both of you upset. One of you said, I've lost all of your support. You will never vote for me. Okay, cool.
Wait, and that was in
over the militia deal.
Oh, the militia.
And I want to come back and I want to just address this as we
Are
get
you
ready
telling
to
them they
conclude.
shouldn't be able to show up down there with their guns on?
No.
I mean, they have.
Well, what I'm saying is, number one, you have a problem because you have law enforcement that has not clearly addressed this to the local community.
Right.
Number two, if in fact you are there to be a deterrence, the orders came out directly from whoever Badger and Leprechaun are. And they specifically said they were deploying, mobilizing for backup riot control, not a deterrence. Also, I believe that it is good to be a gray man. If those of you that love tactical things, you already know this term. Your presence there. You don't have to show your guns if you're armed to put a presence out to where people know these are guys and ladies that you don't want to mess with. But think about this. If local law enforcement has a credible threat, and I think, Matt, I'm going to see if I can't throw up your comment, because your comment was a good comment. Let me spin this to you, Dan, because I asked Matt to articulate, okay, well, what's your plan? What is your plan if nobody shows up that is armed and Antifa is overwhelming numbers? What then? Let them burn police cars and destroy businesses for a week in LA. What's your plan? You ran for sheriff and you should have had a plan, or you should have a plan. You know what? You're exactly right, Matt. First of all, as sheriff, and we're talking about hypotheticals now, but I was an executive protection agent in high-risk environments outside the United States, and we had multiple plans. And you know what some of those plans were from the beginning? Is to avoid the problem to begin with. You go out of your way to tactically come up with your plans so that you don't get into these hard situations. You have a sheriff that has failed to unite anybody in this county when it comes to these type of events. And I will prove my point by saying, let's suppose that Sheriff Bob Norris, because we know that Chief White would not be working with the militia. I'm pretty safe to
absolutely
just,
100%.
That. If Bob Norris decided that he was going to bring in the local militia, again, I don't even know who this group is. They're going by, commanding officer or and first sergeant. So we assume it's militia. But if your sheriff was working with the militia on the side to say, hey, I'm going to bring you in for backup security in Coeur d'Alene, which is not my jurisdiction, but it is my jurisdiction depending on the day in the week. What does that say about his discernment by allowing an organization that he has there to work along with him that's leaking their ops plan, where everybody in the entire freaking county now knows what's going on? Okay. So really what we've got here is just a kind of a recap, because I was taking these guys to task. Number one, law enforcement hasn't requested backup. Your ops plan that you put out for everybody to see, it was not secure. You're saying bring all your long guns and your tack gear because you're going to be riot and handcuffs because you're going to be riot backup, riot control backup. Your own words. We're going to rally here. And I just said, look, this is not a very good thing to do. If the sheriff truly needs you, then by all means, follow his directions. But
Absolutely,
for people
100%.
to just go down to this rally and assume that they are going to be the law, in my opinion, was not smart. You have the right to do it. I said that.
Now, okay, an argument was, we're not going down there to be the law. So these are guys that are part of these local militia groups, which is why they're getting all whipped up about it.
They are the B tier militias, the ones we're talking about, because the guys that I know that are real militia dudes, like serious ones, they don't do this. This is kind of like the gangbangers.
Yeah,
stuff. They want people to see them.
That you're actually not going to know who they are. But they were positioning this as, look, we're just going down there to put some guns on, not trying to create any trouble. It's just, we're going to create an appearance, and all what it's going to do is it's a deterrent.
And they were mad.
So what this is going to mean is that nothing bad's going to happen because we're just going to be a presence.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that because it's important with where you're heading next.
So the next few days, we received a lot of hate from these militia guys. Out of everything over all the years that we've been doing this now, the hate was from these B-string militia guys that were so incensed, and so they were assuring me, we're here to prevent what's going to happen in Spokane and
just a presence
and all this crap. And there was a couple guys that caused some problems in front of ICE in Spokane, just to the west of us. Spokane PD had to come in and run them off. But anyway, so we drive around this rally on Saturday, same day that the Coeur d'Alene was. We saw, and Quincy, if you're watching, you were there live streaming, you can go to the BC Preachers channel and see that live event on the east side of 95, north of Appleway, where they rallied these No King protesters who hate Trump and, hate conservatives. I'm probably overgeneralizing, but, it's kind of the vibe. They were mostly people that were older.
And you're talking about No Kings?
No Kings.
Okay,
yeah.
so this is where I want to throw in while you're getting ready to continue that thought, because Ed Dupree says he was at the No Kings. He spent about an hour plus on each side of the highway, just standing back, not engaging anybody, just watching and listening, and has to say that those who were in the, quote, battle gear, camo, ammo belts, rifles, handguns, etc., were a ragtag looking bunch, and who, in his opinion, would be more of a danger to the public than help. I'm curious of your then thoughts or perception of people on that other side of the highway. So not the guys in their battle rattle, but the ones part of the No Kings protest, if you ever had any dialogue with them or what you observed. Because
So I mean, look, we said
meaning
from the
when
beginning,
you were saying like Trump haters and that, were they all really?
These were people that you're going to watch the video here in a second, but I kept contending, this is not Antifa, this is not Black Bloc. Quincy, if you're there, chime in. You were there when all the rioting and the burning of Portland took place. You are battle hardened when it comes to reporting from those scenes. Even Quincy was saying at the time, this is going to be peaceful. This is folks that are, not violent, soft people. So I think it's interesting. We're going to play one clip from Quincy's live stream. This is on the militia side. So the militia decided to do a counter protest. There's probably people other than militia, but the militia guys were staked on the opposite side of Highway 95. Right. So yeah, we saw that, Alicia. We're gonna talk about that. I think we have some video of that, but we're gonna play one of my biggest fans is Tad from Shoshone. Tad's a militia guy. Tad's a guy that during the campaign continually waffled back and forth.
I didn't even know
although he couldn't vote for me.
I didn't know we were bringing Tad.
Yeah, we're bringing Tad on, and we're doing it because
Tad.
Tad's got a big mouth and Tad likes to lie, so Tad's going to get called out.
You asked for it.
And by the way, Tad, I want to ask you, when you misrepresented our meeting here a couple weeks ago at Adelano's in Coeur d'Alene, when you told me that your pop was upset or whatever it was because I didn't give him enough respect when I sat the entire time and talked to you and asked you about yourself and was polite and courteous and you had nothing to say, but you went around later on to run your mouth. At that time, you were telling me that you had just come from a KCRCC candidate event where you, the militia, you're from Shoshone, not even from Kootenai County, but you were with your militia friends over here to provide security for that event in case protesters came to this local town hall for this candidate. Hey, Tad, when you guys were there running security, how come the candidate had their purse or wallet stolen? Just a side question. You guys were there running security, you told me. So, I mean, you guys should be able to handle that, right? But Tad comes in, runs his mouth, and then later on, what does he do? He misrepresents what was said on our last broadcast, spins it, and we're going to listen to what he has to say right now.
2020, and they got turned around when they saw that there was enough armed people here, opposition, that they were like, no. The ones that wanted to peacefully protest stayed. The ones that weren't going to peacefully protest left, or didn't come. They decided to turn around.
Okay.
And we had people that actually got on their comms and heard what they were saying. They were turning around on the highways.
Okay.
Heading down. And so it's a possibility if they think they can get away with it, they will.
Right. Do you think that side across the street would even allow them to get away with it?
What's that? Them?
Yeah. Do you think they would even allow that?
Yeah.
Really? Do you do?
Oh, yeah. They do it everywhere else where they're allowed to.
Yeah, I think for me, from my experience, this is way different than the things that we see on TV.
No, you were over in Portland during the riots, I'm sure.
And Seattle.
I was over
and
there
California.
working.
And California.
I was over there working all those places during those times.
Right.
Right? That's the first time I knocked an Antifa guy out.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a douchebag and tried to come at me.
Okay.
So I was over there working. I built some of those high rises, all that stuff, right? And when they're allowed to act that way, they do act that way.
Right, which I'm saying I don't think that would be allowed here.
No, because we're here. We're not going to allow it.
Well,
The police are here too, and that's great. And we are not to interfere in their job. We don't want to interfere in their job. Right?
Yeah.
If they got overran like they did in LA, we are here.
I don't even think that side would allow it.
I think they would.
Really? Have you gone over there and talked to them?
I've talked to some over the years.
And you think that they'd go for the anarchy?
There are some that aren't interested in it, and then there are some that are. Here's one thing, though. There are people that are weak unless they're in a group.
Of course.
And once they get into a bigger mob group, right, then they get more aggressive and violent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If the Marines were down in LA at the beginning of this thing, you think most people would have rioted? Or do you think they would have said, nah, we're dealing with Marines now, we better just chill the hell out?
I don't think those people care. When you're at that level, you don't care who it is.
They obviously do care because the Marines are there and they're starting to chill out now.
We'll see what happens today.
We'll see. Maybe some of them will get shot and then they'll disperse.
Some of them.
The point is, though, is...
He says maybe some of those protesters will get shot. So this is Tad from Shoshone.
Well, I also like the part where I know you're probably going to continue on, but I love the part where he said he was in Seattle at the time Antifa was there, whatever year, I don't know, but he knocked out an Antifa guy in Seattle because he deserved it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Tad, the militia guy, talking about, in case you can't hear it, you can download Quincy's live stream on YouTube, and he's basically saying Quincy's challenging him, saying, "Look, all those people over there's like 2,000 of them. They're all peaceful. They're not Antifa.
Exactly.
They're not Black Bloc."
And that was the point Ed DePriest was making. Also, they weren't there inciting anything.
He's trying to argue and say, well, if they were given the chance, they would allow Antifa and Black Bloc to come in and destroy and root, right? And Quincy's like, I don't think these people here in Kootenai County, Idaho, even if they're liberal, would put up with that. So we'll play just a few more seconds of it, and then we're going to go to The proof
My
in
favorite.
the pudding.
My favorite.
I do agree with the number thing. It helps someone feel more confident, more bucked up. Yeah.
It's kind of like people who drink too much and they think that they
All right. Yeah.
But
I agree with that.
we're here. We're allowed to be here.
Of course. I mean,
they're allowed to be there. We don't care what Dan Wilson thinks, by the way, about that. It's just, I know you're recording. I know he's watching this.
yeah, I'm live streaming it. Yeah. I don't know if he's watching. He hasn't
will.
commented.
Yeah. But we don't care what you think, Dan. We're allowed to be here and we can dress however we want, despite your little podcast. But we are here peacefully. Just like right now, they're peaceful. If they stay peaceful, we stay peaceful, right?
I mean, that's how it should be. I mean, that's what a counter protest. I mean, that's what protesting should be. It should be peaceful, and that's what I'm saying. Because I've been out here the past 2 ones because I wanted to see if it was different than Portland, how they acted even toward me.
Yeah.
And it's a night and day difference, and that's why I'm like, they're not even a threat.
Well,
They're not a threat.
They used to be pretty threatening. They used to attack a lot of people.
Bro, this is 2,000 people out here, man. There's
a lot of innocent
Who did?
people.
These people here?
No, in Portland.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. It's a night and day difference. It's night and day.
The demographic is different, though, too, because Idaho's not a libtard state.
Well, if you want to say libtard, they're showing the Republicans out right now.
I don't care about that. It takes 20 of us to one of them. There's that.
Meaning what?
I mean, it's going to take a lot more of them to take less of us. If it comes down to it.
Okay.
Most of us are a lot more trained than they are. Which is another thing that Dan was wrong about. So, but anyways, I hope for a peaceful protest. You pray for peace. You prepare
It's good. I mean, it's going to be peaceful. I mean, I said that myself. I mean, like,
no, it is peaceful.
nothing's going to happen. I mean, nothing's going to happen.
I hope it stays that way.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think you got your money shot
Well, but
on that
I want
one.
to hear both of them. And, I get accused of not doing things in context. I mean, Tad is sitting there talking about how this,
He can, Dan Wilson, we can go where we want and dress how we want.
Yeah.
But the money shot for me was when he said, they stay peaceful, we stay peaceful.
Yeah. And we're gonna show this. So Quincy was challenging him, saying, "Bro, I've actually been on the lines, and you guys are like way over the top on this, right?"
Yeah.
So
An
remember that
overreaction. Yeah.
we were told that they were there to keep the peace, that they were just there. And if you go back to any of the numerous posts right after this on any of our social media and listen to Tad and Matt and those, they were so incensed and they were just there to keep the peace. Well, commanding officer Badger. I don't know who Leprechaun is. I didn't even know who Badger was.
We didn't, but we do now.
Thanks to Casey Whalen and his North Idaho Exposed, he was able to enlighten us because he did about a 12-minute video. We're not going to watch the whole thing.
No.
I want to warn you right now, there is a lot of strong foul language in this next clip that we are about ready to play. We're going to play 2 or 3 minutes so you can get kind of the flavor of this peaceful group. Now, this guy, just for a little backup, is the commanding officer of the militia. I assume that he and Tad are battle buddies. Just a hunch. Don't know that for certain.
We know Tad was defending
They
Badger's
were told to
honor.
bring their long guns and
Yeah.
to be there as riot control, and they're just there to observe. Tad says, "We just want to keep the peace," right?
That we're transitioning from Tad saying we just want to keep the peace, and then we're setting the stage for this battle or Badger, who's the incident commander of this
militia,
the B team or C team militia. We're now getting a peek under the covers or behind the curtain as to just who Badger really is. Again, Tad's laid the groundwork. We stay peaceful. They stay peaceful.
God bless There's only one king, and it's King Jesus.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
Hey, you guys do know that the Democratic Party appointed Kamala Harris as the runner without a single vote, right? Who's making kings, huh?
Get that fucking flag out of my face.
Hey, fuck you, dickhead. You walked into it.
You know.
Fuck you.
Just keep marching. Just keep marching.
He needs to just not touch me again. He touches me again, I'm going to drop his ass.
Nobody's going to go over to that side.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter. I've got a right to peacefully protest.
You can return
Okay?
the favor.
You can't tell us
No,
where to go.
no.
Have a nice day.
Yeah. Hey, you tell anybody they touch us, it's going to be on. Okay? We've got a right to walk
street.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
And he just touched me, and I let him slide.
Try to want flags waving on people's
Well, he walked right into it. Okay. So you better warn your people.
You too.
No, we're not worried about it. We can handle ourselves.
Okay, I want to stop and say this real quick. That is Badger, Commanding Officer Badger. He went across the street to where the No Kings protesters were, so he left his side with his group.
Exactly.
And he went over there, and this is what keeping the peace looks like as he's carrying his Trump flag.
Nobody's touching your Social Security except the Democrats. Hey, didn't they just appoint Pelosi without a vote? Didn't they just appoint Pelosi without a vote? Sounds like they were trying to appoint a queen to me. So, didn't the Democratic Party just appoint Kamala to run for president? There wasn't a vote, right? No vote at all. That's weird. That's weird. No, I don't have to. Make me keep my opinion to myself. No, come make me. I'm just walking up and down the street. You're a communist. Yeah, all of you. Every single last one of you. You don't know the meaning of Nazi. That's funny. Damn, there's a lot of angry white women in this crowd. Speaking of fascists,
KKK, no fascist USA! No ICE! No KKK, no fascist!
go ICE! Go ICE! Go ICE! Go ICE! Arrest these motherfuckers!
Hey, watch your language. You're in public.
I don't care, there's no law against it.
No ICE! No KKK, no fascist USA!
Fuck off!
No ICE! No KKK!
ICE,
no
arrest
fascist
these
USA.
motherfuckers! ICE!
Okay. You guys get the idea. Thanks for that video coverage that apparently Casey Whalen, in coordination with Badger, they both videoed that interaction. So you have these militia guys that are there to be riot control. They are online, Matt and Tad and others. They're righteously indignant about how dare Wilson. Now, I never told them not to go down there. Never told them that they don't have a right to be down there. Never told them they didn't have a right to wear their 511s and wear all their tack gear. Right? Mm-hmm. Never said that. I said it wasn't wise, and I articulated why. But they turned that around, and they turned it. By the way, the argument then became, well, we're just going to be there for backup. We're just going to be there for backup. We're not going to be there to cause any trouble.
And to be a presence in case something does happen, or it'll be a deterrent. We're just a presence.
So let me ask the folks out there, those watching, does that look like somebody that is there to just cautiously, carefully observe to make certain no riots take place?
And again, this is a guy who's incident commander number one that
the militia
is making the plan to go down here, and that is this guy's behavior. That's his behavior.
He walks across using foul language. Again, he has the right to do all this.
Yep.
We're just to be clear. Let me say it again. He has the right to do this. But the question is why is he doing that? You heard Tad earlier saying, well, you know what? Well, I'm paraphrasing, but one of them might get shot if they do something they're not supposed to. I mean, that's what Tad was saying earlier, talking about, the other side might get shot. Folks, this is why I say these types of organizations are very, very dangerous, and why the only lawful way that these militias should operate is under a sheriff who is training with them, making certain the rule of law is maintained and training standards, making certain the due process, because you have somebody here that, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to call it what it is. He was out there agitating people in an attempt to get a confrontation so that he could get it on video.
Yes.
And this is a guy that most likely is carrying a firearm. I don't know. I didn't see him with a long gun. But, I mean, the order was bring your sidearm and your long gun. So why would you guys want to hang out with somebody like that? Are you looking for an incident to put you on the map? Are you looking for that moment to where the rest of the world can say, see, we told you the whole time up there that those people are unhinged and that we need the feds to go in there and clean them up. Is this really what you want? If not, Tad, you need to police yourself because your guy, your boy, your commanding officer was being a dick. You can mix firearms with this stuff. I saw a bunch of video because Quincy went over there and talked with them. I don't believe their ideology, but they had the right to be there. I don't buy your argument in retrospect, Matt, when you came on and you posted things like, let's go to that slide because we need to show this.
Yeah, just let me know which.
I want you to go to slide number
8. I think it's 8.
Let's go to 8.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt had made some statements. I don't have the screenshot. You guys could find it. And he said, hey, we were able to make certain no riots took place in Kootenai County with our presence because of our militia brothers. Unlike Spokane, that had a riot.
Okay.
He alleged that they had a riot over there. Well, Matt, I'm going to tell you, I still have friends, close friends that are officers at SPD. And I'm showing you a text exchange that I made with my friend who happens to be in leadership over in Spokane PD and knows this. I said, hey, did they riot in Spokane during the No Kings yesterday? They did some mild civil disobedience marching. Then the hardcore ones ate some gas. Overall, fairly peaceful. You know, a couple people probably fit person at that point lawfully. Gas was used to make them comply. No rioting yesterday. Good. So understand that at the same time this was taking place, where there was 2,000 people in Kootenai County, there were reports of 10,000 being part of that rally in Spokane. You got 10,000 people. That's 5 times the amount in Spokane. No militia showed up to that event, and yet there was no rioting. So your argument, I mean, if we're gonna weigh these out, Matt, in your stupid comments, that you truly believe, if you truly believe this, you have cognizant, you have a cognitive break with reality. Because in Spokane, which has far more liberal policies where people do get away with that stuff more often than not, they had 5 times the amount of people, no militia, and no rioting. And yet you're trying to say in Coeur d'Alene, where we all saw the people were peaceful, and I doubt we're ever going to cause any violence from what we saw, you're claiming a victory. So keep smoking whatever it is you're smoking. If it makes you feel better at the end of the day, or maybe do something constructive and join some organization where you can truly give and make a difference to your community with your skill sets. I don't know. I guess we could go on. I beat this up enough, but it did need to be answered after all these weeks.
Yeah.
And it ties back into some of the reports we were seeing where there was a call to send militia guys out into that event that took place Sunday in order to take the suspect out. We saw those tweets.
Yes. And that, again, for who live in the social media world of Facebook, you've got to understand that there are other extraordinarily strong social media platforms where conversations are taking place outside of this nexus, Bob Norris' favorite word, or nuke of Kootenai, where you think all of those important conversations are in accordance with your worldview. Not necessarily the case. And we are looking on those multi-platforms and trying to some conversations back over to Facebook, which is why you get pushback from it. But I'll, as a lead into that, I'm going to encourage you to follow Dan's X account. So over at x.com, formerly Twitter, and that is the Idaho Sheriff. Follow that Dan Wilson account, because a lot of these conversations take place there that you're not going to see necessarily on that Facebook platform. They drill down very differently and can be quite a bit more informative in the form of those threads where you're really engaging in a lot of very thoughtful discussion there. So it's the Idaho Sheriff over on x.com.
So good to see you guys again after what seems like a very long time. Miss seeing you guys a lot. I don't have a quote from the founders today because I just didn't feel it was right. I'm going to leave you with the words of Jesus, John 15:13. He says, greater love has no one than this. It lays down his life for his friends. Stay strong and courageous. Remember the fallen. Remember the families. If you have faith, pray for them. Healing for our community. May God bless you all.
Joining us tonight on the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast, you can visit our website at libertywithoutcompromise.com. There you can watch past episodes and view exclusive reports on the Kootenai County political power players. Again, that's libertywithoutcompromise.com. And as we're heading out tonight, I'm going to bring up this photo once again, remembering John Morrison of Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, Frank Harwood, Kootenai County Fire and Rescue, and then also prayers for David Tisdale, Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, who is still in recovery, critical condition.